shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like the tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Jesus is my captain. I shall not be moved. Thank you. Jesus is my captain. I shall not be moved, just like the tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. We'll do that one again. Jesus is my captain. I shall not be moved. Jesus is my captain. I shall not be moved, just like the tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I'm on my way to heaven. On my way to heaven, I shall not be moved. On my way to heaven, I shall not be moved, just like the tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved.
Thank you, Alicia, for your wonderful performance. It is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker for this evening's events, Judge Kevin McKeever. Judge Kevin McKeever grew up in the south side of Chicago and is the second of 3 children born to the late William Warren and Chloe McKeever. His parents were teachers for the Chicago public school system, and their example instilled in him the importance of servanthood. He graduated from Northwestern University. He served his country as an officer in the United States Navy, completing tours in both the Middle East and Asia. After the military, Judge McKeever attended and graduated from the University of Iowa Law School. He then held positions as staff attorney for American College Testing in Iowa City and as the assistant county attorney in the states of Minnesota and Iowa. In October 2015, Governor Terry Branstad appointed him to Iowa's 6th Judicial District as the first African-American district court judge. Judge McKeever is currently a board member of the African-American Museum of Iowa, serves on the Access of Justice Committee commissioned by the Iowa Supreme Court, teaches Sunday school, and serves as a trustee board chairman for his church. When he can find the time, he likes reading history books about World War II and enjoys bicycling. But his greatest joy is his family. Judge McKeever and his wife Candace have been married for 25 years and have 2 wonderful children. Please help me in welcoming Judge Kevin McKeever to the stand.
Well, good evening, everybody. And first of all, thank you for that kind introduction. My name is Kevin McKeever, and as was mentioned before, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that are really important to me in my life, and I want to start by talking about my wife, even though she told me not to say anything about her. I just can't help myself. My wife and I have been married for 25 years, and we have 2 wonderful children. One of them is 22 years old, and he is a graduate of Cornell University in New York. He's working as a software engineer now. And boy, as I look back over the years, they just grew up so fast. Those of you who have children can relate to this, I think. My other child is 19 years old. She is a sophomore at Northwestern University. Northwestern is a special place in my heart because it's not only where my daughter attends school, but it's where I met my wife. So, anyway, all right. I think I'm going to get it later, but all right. But I wanted to start by talking about some of the things that are important in my life because it really does weave into what I'm going to talk about during my brief time that I am here before you. And I also want to let you know I'm not going to stand up here and talk and talk and talk because that would be awful, right? I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes. These kinds of speeches, they really fall into one of three categories, right? They're the kind that you hear and think were kind of nice but never remember anything about it, okay? The kind that you really hope will end soon. I hope not to be in either one of those two categories. But the third category, and this is what I'm aiming for tonight, the third category is those speeches that somehow are inspiring to you. And I'm talking about my life because the theme is being steadfast and immovable. And in order to be steadfast and immovable, which when I hear the word steadfast and immovable, I think about individuals and groups that are determined. They're dedicated to what they are doing. They are willing to fight for what they believe to be right, no matter what the obstacles and no matter how long it takes to achieve their goals. And those are really admirable things. But I want to rewind a little bit and consider for a moment, how do we determine what we're going to be steadfast and immovable about, okay? And in order to do that, I think you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan that is going to be an intricate part of your life. If you don't remember anything else I tell you tonight, I want you to remember three things. Number one, it's important to decide what is important to you. That seems very simple and very basic, but I think it is fundamentally important. Life is a gift, and it should be treasured. And in order to spend your lives doing things that you can look back on and be proud of, you have to understand on the very basic level what is important to you. I've shared some of those things with the group that are important to me. I'm not telling you that you have to adopt those things, but I'm saying to you that if you want to spend your life doing things that are worthwhile, the first step is understanding what is actually important to you. I'll share a few things with the group. One I've already shared, my family is important to me. My faith is important to me. My community is important to me. And justice is important to me. And all of those things have been driving forces in my life. And when I look back over my life at all of the things that I've done, I derive the most joy from those things that I have considered to be important and those things that I have worked towards and spent time doing. I recall a time when I think I was maybe 20 or 21. I was talking to someone about how I couldn't wait to graduate from college. And because as soon as I graduated from college, I was going to have a job and have some money. Boy, was I wrong. But I thought, I'm looking forward to this, right? I want to graduate. I want to get a job. I want to make some money. And I was going to go into the Navy at the time. And this was an older gentleman. He sat down and he said, look, I want to tell you something. There's nothing wrong with looking forward to things. But keep in mind that life will pass you by more quickly than you realize. Look forward to things, but don't forget to enjoy what you are doing in the moment. And so I thought that was a really wise way to look at life. And in recognizing those things that are important to you, if you spend your time on those things, then you're spending your time wisely. And when you get to the end, or not the end, you get to a place where you're later in life and you look back over, you will really love what you see. And so the first step in this process, decide what is important to you. Secondly, and this I think is a very crucial part of this equation, you have to be informed about those things that are important to you. And that seems like, no, of course you want to be informed about what you're doing. But I only mention this because I think that sometimes today people are really willing to take off and work on something or fight for something or do something because they want to get something done. But as my 5th grade teacher used to tell me when I get all my information from the encyclopedia, that I haven't researched the issue well enough yet to be saying what my conclusions are. And in today's world, we can sit down with our smartphones and Google something and get an answer. And I'm not saying Google's wrong, don't say it. But I'm just saying that, what happened to my 5th grade teacher's advice, which said, do your thorough research before you decide how you're going to handle a problem. And today, I think we can find that we face a number of problems in our society, many problems which needs to be tackled. If you decide that you want to take one of them on, my advice to you is do it, but be well informed. I'm going to tell a story here, and I promise this is the only story I'm going to tell you, but this illustrates the point of being well informed versus being uninformed or misinformed, because I think it's very, very important to know the difference. And I'm not making this story up to the extent that it's based on an actual event that happened, but I'm going to change some of the facts because I just think it's appropriate not to, just in case anybody knows anybody who knows this person. So there was a natural disaster that occurred a few years ago, and as with most natural disasters, there was a relief effort that was underway. As part of this relief effort, there were aid stations that were set up in this particular region. The aid stations distributed food, medicines, water, the typical things that you would expect a relief station to provide. A young man from the community came to one of the aid stations looking for some food and some other supplies for his family. The young man picked up some supplies from this aid station. One of the things that he picked up was a packet of food. And as he was leaving, he noticed the date on the package was a date that was several weeks ago. So, alarmed that this food had expired, he went back to the aid station, started yelling at the workers that this food was expired and that they shouldn't be passing it out. They didn't appear to be listening to him, so he started talking to the people that were there to get aid and food. And eventually, several dozen groups of people decided that this young man was right, and they threw their food on the ground and walked away. Well, a more detailed investigation revealed later that the date on the package was not the expiration date. It was the manufacture date. And so the date reflected the date in which the food was put together and placed in the package. And the food was perfectly good. So you can see that from where I'm going with this story, this young man who saw what he perceived to be a problem and decided to take action about that problem to try to solve it. And he did, and he felt that he had stood up for himself, he stood up for his family and his community, and he felt that he attained a positive result because he's determined not to allow food that had expired to be passed out in his community and to his family. But in reality, what he ended up doing was more harm than good. So the only thing, my message in telling that story is, with information, it is very important that you get as much good information as you possibly can before you make a decision about what to do. Because the only thing worse than being uninformed is being misinformed. Because when you're misinformed, you can not only have the possibility to hurt yourself and those people that you care about, but you can harm many, many others if you convince them to follow you down the wrong path. So, my second point is be informed about what is important to you. The third thing, which I think is it pretty much follows along with this theme, is be willing to act regarding what's important to you. I'm going to quote one of my favorite people. I never met him in person, but I've read a lot of his writings, and I think he's an outstanding individual. When I say his name, I think probably everyone will agree, although maybe not. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." So with that in mind, it's not sufficient just to sort of stay in your own lane of life, I don't think. If you really want to have a productive life, one where you address those things that are really important to you, to the extent that you can have a life where you can touch others and influence others and be a positive impact on those around you, I would encourage each and every one of you to do that. So, as I said to you before, I'm not going to be up here long. I'm reaching kind of the end of what I had prepared to tell you. I just have a couple of tips that I want to share with the group before I close. One thing you can do when you are engaged in trying to fulfill your duty, if you will, to be true to who you are and to try to attain those things which you believe to be important in life. Look for allies. If you want to support a cause that you believe in, chances are there are many other people out there who are willing to fight for the same cause. So don't feel like you're alone in this journey called life. When you find allies that believe in the same things that you do, join with them. Stand together and fight for those things that you believe in. I'm going to ask everyone to do something for me, all right? Not right now. But at some point, I think you should take the time to look at a video. I wasn't actually going to do this, but I'm changing my mind now. I'm going to ask you to look at this video because I think it illustrates what I'm talking about. Unity with those who believe what you believe is very important. A couple of months ago, I stumbled across a video on YouTube called "Don't Be a Sucker." And I don't know if anyone, raise your hand if you've seen the video or if you've heard of it. Okay. There's one person? All right. "Don't Be a Sucker" is a 1947 video, so please excuse the datedness of it. Have you seen it? Okay. All right, a couple more people have seen it. But what it talks about is, it talks about the dangers to a free society if it becomes too divided. And I think that one of the dangers to a good and productive society, and if you will, one of the dangers to being steadfast and immovable, is that sometimes it's easier to see the things that are different between us than the things that bring us together. And don't be a sucker if you Google it, even though I always told you to check several sources besides Google, but just Google this, you'll find the video, and you just watch it. It was a 1947 video that was put together by the War Department, and it's warning of the dangers to a free society that can arise if the society becomes too divided. All right, so don't be satisfied with an answer just because it sounds good. Do your research, do your research, do your research. And then, when you're ready, fight for what you believe in. As I said in the very beginning, if you remember just one thing, I would like you to remember, number one, know what's important to you. Number two, be informed about what's important to you. And number three, be willing to act regarding what is important to you. If you do that and you have a plan, then you can be true to who you are, and you truly can be steadfast and immovable. Thank you.
you, Judge McKeever, for those 3 elegant points. I think as we kind of ponder what that means for us, I see a group of people who have many spheres of influence. So I think that the most powerful message here is we can all impart that kind of message or similar messages to those in our lives who need to hear it at the right time, always at the right time. So thank you very much for those 3 points. I think you took my notes.
Sorry.
Now I would like to introduce Mrs. Beatrice Jackson, who will be performing Ain't I a Woman? Okay, you want to put it in?
Talking about steadfast and immovable. Born Isabella Baumfree. We know her as Miss Sojourner Truth. In 1851, she was asked by the presiding officer of the Women's Rights Convention in Akron, Ohio, to speak. Now, this has been published over and over as Ain't I a Woman? But there was an anti-slavery newspaper editor there that day called Rita Robinson. He said not one time did she make that statement, but it sounded good when they published it. The leader of the movement trembled as this tall, gaunt black woman in a gray dress, white turban, surmounted with an uncouth sunbonnet, marched deliberately into the church. She walked with an air of a queen, and up the aisle she came to take her seat upon the pulpit steps. A buzz of strong disapproval was heard all over the house, talking about it. It's an abolition affair. Women's rights and Negroes. I told you so. I told you. As the president of the meeting, Francis Gage had a time restoring order so the business could go on. Some of the other women was saying to Miss Gage, don't let her speak. Don't let her speak. She's gonna ruin us. They're going to attach us to women's rights and Negroes. Miss Gage said, we shall see. You had the men from all different church denominations that came to hear the discussion. Some of them claimed the superior rights and privileges for man on the grounds of a superior intellect. Let's remember that word, intellect. Then another of the preachers that says because of the manhood of Christ, if God had desired equality of a woman, he would have given us some token of his will through the birth, the life, and the death of the Savior. Then another came up with a theological view of the sin of the first mother. But the women dared not say anything. All this time, Miss Truth had sat there listening with her head down. Then slowly from her seat in the corner, she rose, lifted her head, And the women are still saying to Frances Gage, don't let her speak, don't let her speak, Miss Gage, she's gonna ruin us. Miss Truth slowly and solemnly came to the front, laid her bonnet at her feet, and turned her great speaking eyes. She looked at Frances Gage, who rose and says, Miss Sojourner Truth. Eyes was fixed on her. She stood nearly 6 feet high, head erect, eyes piercing. At her first word, there was a profound hush. She spoke in deep tones, which, though not loud, reached every ear in the house. She said, well, children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women of the North, all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. And what's all this here talking about anyhow? That man over there, he said that women needs to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and have the best everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into no carriages and over the mud puddles or gives me in the best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arms. I have plowed and planted and gathered in the bonds, and no man could head me. I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lashes well. I have borne 13 children and seen them all mostly sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. Then they talks about this here thing in the head. This here thing. What they call it, honey? Intellect. Intellect. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? Then that little man over there in black, he said women can't have as much rights as men because Christ want a woman. Where did Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. And man ain't had nothing to do with it. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down, all alone, these women here together ought to be able to turn it back again. And now they is asking to do it, and the men better let them. Well, much obliged to you for hearing on me. Now, old Sojourner ain't got nothing else to say.
That was truly a wonderful performance. Thank you so much. Each year, the NAACP recognizes organizations and community members. This year, they will present 4 awards, which include the Distinguished Service Award, the Community Empowerment Award, the Business Empowerment Award, and the NAACP Unsung Hero or Heroine. At this time, I invite Ms. Rita Robinson to the podium to present these awards.
Good evening. My name is Rita Robinson, and it is my distinct pleasure to present the 2017 NAACP Awards to acknowledge these individuals, organizations, and businesses for their contribution to our community. Please come forward when I call your name, organization, or company. First award, the Distinguished Service Award this year goes to Della Mo. She is valued for her dedication to the children and her care and taking an active role in various community organizations. Della is always available to give support, guidance, and listening ears to anyone in need. Della has a number of strengths. She is caring, friendly, good with children, genuine, consistent, and takes an active role in a variety of organizations in the community. Della is a positive role model in this community. You can hear me. Congratulations, Della. All right, moving on. Next, we will have the Community Empowerment Award. The Community Empowerment Award this year goes to the African American Museum of Iowa. Founded in 1993, the African American Museum of Iowa is a statewide museum located in Cedar Rapids, dedicated to preserving, exhibiting, and teaching Iowa's African American history. As Iowa's leading resource on this topic, the museum educates more than 30,000 people each year through museum tours, travel and exhibits, research services, youth and adult education programs, and community and fundraising events. The museum's permanent exhibit, Endless Possibilities, trace African American history from its origins in Western Africa to present. Its revolving temporary exhibit provides ongoing education on topics significant to Iowa's rich African American culture. In addition to supporting community events such as Juneteenth, the museum offers extensive youth programming, which brings Iowa African American history to life with a wide variety of programs for preschool, elementary, and middle school age children. And they're in the midst of looking for those who will want to volunteer to do tours. So if you want to do that, check this lady out. She can get you hooked up, and we're going to get some more and tours. Congratulations to the African American Historical Museum. Next, we will have the Business Empowerment Award. The Business Empowerment Award this year goes to Mercy Medical Center. Giving back to our community and an integral part of Mercy Medical Center's heritage. Mercy's community benefits and outreach programs have provided needed services and support to numerous organizations in our community, such as the Willis Day Emergency Shelter and the Catherine McCauley Center. Mercy has provided ongoing support for community organizations and fundraisers, which includes the Academy for Scholastic and Personal Success, the annual Juneteenth celebration, the African American Museum of Iowa, and the NAACP. Though its dedicated physicians and staff, the Mercy Touch reaches beyond the walls of the hospital to make a positive difference in our community. I was there last week sick. You made me well. Thank you, Mercy. Absolutely. Here standing this evening. Last but not least, try to do this without crying, but y'all work with me here. The Unsung Hero Harriet Award is awarded this year to the Pastor William C. Perkins. When you read Jeremiah 3:15, the Lord tells he will give a shepherd's heart to lead the sheep to knowledge and understanding. These words epitomizes the actions of Pastor William C. Perkins. Not only is he a great man of great character and wisdom, but he is also a man who believes in caring for the people, regardless of age, race, religion, beliefs, or station in life. He has the willingness to assist those in need, to make their lives better, which is the essence of being a pastor. He has responded to the call from the Lord in a manner that gives the community in which he rides faith that good does conquer evil. After 56 years, he was married to his lovely wife, Rose, for 56 years this past August. And as of October 1st, he has retired from active duty. Bethel now has a brand new minister, the Reverend Lee Williams, but he will always be affectionately known to me as my pastor. Congratulations to Pastor William C. Perkins. Thank you very much. And I'll leave it over to our wonderful president, who's going to be short, just like me. Thank you.
Finally, each year, the chapter president of the NAACP selects a person in the community to receive the President's Award. Mr. Dedric Doolin will announce the recipient and give a little description about the award.
Good evening. Good evening. One more time, let's give all those winners a round of applause. Now, she said I was going to be short. I'm working on that. So the President's Award is given each year by the President as somebody that the President has seen has done something special in the community, who stands out and who stands out. Can you hear me now? Okay. Who stands out in the mind of the President as someone deserving of this award. So this year, I'm going to try to do this as briefly as I can. This person receiving the award this evening caught my attention a few years ago, and I got some nominations from some other folks. I was informed about some of the special things they had done in the community. This person was very active for a while in the NAACP Youth Council and shared their views openly with others while being open and respectful of others' opinions and ideas. At one time, this person ran for president of the Cedar Rapids Youth Council, but due to serious medical issues of their mother, had to withdraw. And that's what really caught my attention at that time. So that's been a few years ago. This young man got 2 jobs, not one, but 2 jobs as a young man, still in school, to pay for his mother's medical expenses. Now, to me, that is serious, just in itself. Still going to school. Now, how many young men gonna take the time to go work 2 jobs, and now, man, because no social life, 2 jobs to pay for their mother's expense? That's love to me. That is a pure example of love, dedication, and commitment. But that's not the only thing he did. I mean, like I said, he ran for the president, withdrew, but he had been very active in the youth council. This young man, I couldn't read everything that folks gave me, but he was just impressive to me. And I watched him over the years. I've seen some things. I went out and talked to some people, not intentionally, but I was talking to some people accidentally who worked for this young man. And they told me he is the most wonderful employer to work for. They told me, and I can't give all the details because I don't know how many employees he did this for and didn't do this for, but they told me he did some special things for the community, for his employees. He looked at each one of his employees as a very special person, and he did all he could to make sure that they each individually could be successful in their efforts on the job and in life. Now, some of you may know who he is, but I'm going to give you a little hint. He is the director of the HDU Center. Please join me in welcoming Ishmael Thoreau as the President's Award winner this evening.
Now I'd like to invite Betty Andrews to the podium, please.
Greetings, everyone. You guys are looking really good out there. My name is Betty Andrews. I'm the president of the Iowa-Nebraska NAACP, representing over 30 units of the organization in Iowa and Nebraska. And I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I try to make it every year because Cedar Rapids is just an awesome city. I feel like it's my second home. I was on the board of the museum for quite some time, and I've spent a lot of time back and forth doing a lot of advocacy work here in Cedar Rapids. So I am just absolutely thrilled to be here. I would also just like to commend you. It is really powerful to see this crowd here today. The beautiful faces just really let me know, and should let other people know. I already knew this, but the NAACP is alive and well. The NAACP is alive and well. We're going, yes. I see some Davenport representation out there and a few other places around the state as well. We're just proud to be an NAACPer tonight. And just in case, because sometimes people have that question, you know, we're a 100 and almost 9-year organization, and people have that question, are we still relevant? Is the NAACP still relevant? They are relevant. You know why? Because we are the ones that, and we know that protest is extremely important, but we are the ones that help us to move from protest to policy. So when the last protester has gone home, the NAACP is still there advocating for the rights of all people. We are the ones that when we get calls about crosses being burned and hoods being worn in Creston, Iowa, we are the ones that make sure we're in touch with that community and are working with that community. We are the ones, when we look at the Iowa City schools, and yes, we've had complaints from there, on auctioning a young black boy. It's us, it's the NAACP. We are the ones taking up that fight. We're not alone, but we are the ones in the Cedar Rapids community where the police shot an unarmed black man. It's the NAACP over a year ago, or not over a year ago, we're coming up on 1 year. It's the NAACP that continues to lead the fight for justice. We are the ones. We are steadfast and unmovable. And if you could just take a moment, I know you said you weren't going to have them do anything right now, but I'm going to ask you to stand up, to rise up, NAACP, rise up. Rise up, NAACP, because you are the ones. Rise up. And I'm asking you to tell your neighbor, just look, find a neighbor, find a partner really quickly. Shake their hands and say, I am the one. We are the ones. We are the NAACP, and tonight, and forevermore, we are steadfast and immovable. We are the ones.
At this time, I invite Nancy Humbles, Chair of the Freedom Fund, to make her final remarks.
Sorry. Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. And first of all, thank you so much for coming out this evening to this banquet. But I need to thank the committee that put this together. And I'm going to ask them to stand. We worked on this banquet for 7 months. And we did a good job here. So I would like Ruth Hairston to stand. She's our committee member. Gwen Randall. Rita Robinson, Deb Reed, and Tina Miller. But what I asked you next, for the NAACP, it's time for us to take action. Now that you are all members of the NAACP, we're always looking for volunteers to support some of our programs or to even put on a program. So I'm going to ask you, your next step is let's all get active and involved in the NAACP, because we can make a difference in this community, in children's lives, and our lives here in Cedar Rapids. So thank you so very much for being here, and I'm out.
Dedric, can you please come to the podium?
All right, one more time. Y'all woke? All right, at this time, let's give a round of applause to our MC, Miss Dr. Nyberg. Let's give her a round of applause. Valerie Nyberg, didn't she do a good job? All right, we appreciate it. Once again, Nancy already had you thank the committee. I want to give them another round of applause. They did a lot of work. They did a lot of work. I want to thank our speaker for coming out this evening. I don't know if y'all know, he's the first African American district judge in this area. So let's give him one more round of applause. Here come the judge. No, okay. I want to thank the Lord for the opportunity to have you all come out and having such a wonderful banquet. I also want to thank the Iowa-Nebraska State Conference President, President Betty Andrews, the Iowa-Nebraska First Vice President Vera Kelly, who's in the audience. You want to wave your hand? Came all the way from Davenport. And the Iowa-Nebraska State Educational Chair, Rita Robinson, who also came. I do know give him a round too. He all right, he all right. I do know that there's some members of the Iowa City branch. Iowa City just got reactivated, you all. They haven't been activated for a long time, but they just finally so they're back there. Give them a round of applause as well. So don't forget our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be here. You know, y'all might have been eating cheese and crackers, a little water, but without the sponsors, we really appreciate all they've done. And we just want to thank all of you for coming out this evening, but we want you to do more than come out. We want you to make sure you fill out your cards so we can have your name and your address. We don't want you to just be a card-carrying person. We want you to realize that the NSP work is done through committees, and a committee takes at least 3 people. And there are 21 committees in the NSP, and we need your involvement. We need you all have talents and skills. Don't you know God gave you a talent? He gave you a skill. You can do something, and we ask that you get involved and come up and do something so that we can make this community the best community it can be for all of people, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, gender, whatever. We want you to be stepping up to the plate and be counted. Because, when they came to get somebody else, you didn't stand up. When they came to get other folks, you didn't stand up. When they come to get you, if you don't stand up, who's going to be there to stand up for you? We need to stand up for one another as part of this community. This is our community. This is our city. This is our state. This is our country. We need you to do that so that we can fight. And if you don't know what to do, go to our website. Go to our website. Our website, there's information on there about how you can get involved, in committees and activities and events. And we thank you for coming out. Have a night. Good night. God bless. Have a safe travel.
Thank you, Dedric, for your service and leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, Dedric will be at the door to greet and thank folks as they depart. As he said, please remember to fill out your membership cards. That's how we find you, and we can help you become part of the community and to play your role in that community. I would like to extend my sincere thanks for everyone who attended tonight. Before we close, I would like to make a couple of announcements. This necklace was found in the parking lot outside, so if this is yours, please come up and claim it. Also, tonight's event has been recorded by KHAS Radio and will be available on podcasts for folks to listen at their leisure. Before we close, would Pastor Mel Ramos of the Huss Memorial Presbyterian Church please lead us in closing prayer?
Amen.
I have a 30-minute prayer.
All right now.
So brace yourself, baby. Bow your heads in prayer with me. Father in heaven, I come to you this evening to thank you for the great challenges we have before us. Thank you for the words of inspiration we've heard, and I pray you will use them to cause enough discomfort in our hearts and spirits that taking action against injustice will be the result. We live in a fractured and divided world and community, filled with hatred one for another because of the color of our skin, our gender, the way in which we believe, who and how we worship, how far in education and social status we've achieved, who we love, how much we earn, what food, music, sport teams we enjoy, and how we protest and what we protest. On top of the political bent that we choose. More and more today, we are seeing a rise in inequality, injustice, bigotry, and blatant racism. I pray that you will hear us as we cry out to you, O God, against such social and personal evil. Rise up from among us to take on the challenges we face and grant us favor as we enlist and recruit others to stand and speak truth to power, and give us inner strength to face the backlash that will come against us. May the prophetic voice of Micah ring in our ears today, as in his day. We need to be reminded. Micah says, what can we bring to the Lord? What kind of offering should we give him? Should we bow before God with offerings of yearlings and calves? Should we offer him thousands of rams and 10,000 rivers of olive oil? Should we sacrifice our children to pay for our sin? Here's the voice of the prophet. No, O people, the Lord has told you what is good. And this is what he requires of you: to do right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. In the grace-filled name of Jesus Christ, I pray. And we all said,